The rain fell in thin silver threads over Willow Cafe, a small corner of warmth tucked beside the misty lake of Burlington, Vermont. Inside, soft jazz hummed under the chatter of strangers. And there, by the window, Ilara Quinn sat alone, her red dress glowing faintly against the dim light, her fingers tracing the rim of a glass of untouched water. She had checked her phone 5 times in 20 minutes. Still no message, still no apology. Ilara adjusted the small, discreet hearing aids behind her ears, not out of insecurity, but habit. To most people, they were invisible. To her, they were survival. Then came the moment that would split her night in two. Across the table, Damon Ross finally arrived. Charming smile, expensive watch, the kind of man who thought confidence was the same as kindness. He sat, glanced at her, and said with a laugh too sharp for the quiet cafe, "I didn't know you were actually deaf." The sound sliced the air. Conversations paused. A fork clinked. And just like that, hope curdled into humiliation. Ilara kept her spine straight. Her lips moved carefully, each word deliberate. "I mentioned it on my profile. You said you admired honesty." Damon smirked. "I thought you meant you had trouble hearing sometimes, not—" He gestured vaguely toward her ears. "Not that kind of deaf?" The word hung there, heavy, cruel. He pulled out his phone, scrolling as if she no longer existed. "I'm sorry, but this isn't for me. I can't spend my life repeating myself. My friends would— Well, never mind. I just can't." And with that, he stood up and left, leaving the echo of his ignorance behind. At a booth 3 feet away, Caleb Hart froze mid-sentence. His 6-year-old daughter Lila had stopped coloring, crayon hovering in midair. Her little hands moved in soft gestures. "Daddy, why is that man being mean to the lady?" Caleb's throat tightened. He signed back, his fingers trembling slightly. "Because, sweetheart, some people forget how to be kind." He should have stayed seated, should have let the moment pass. But watching that young woman shrink beneath the weight of someone else's cruelty, he simply couldn't. Caleb rose from his booth, his footsteps quiet on the cafe's wooden floor. He didn't speak. Instead, he lifted his hands. His fingers began to move, graceful, certain, deliberate. Each gesture carried meaning deeper than sound could hold. "You deserve better." Ilara blinked, her breath catching. He was signing not just a few words, but fluently, beautifully. Behind him, Lila watched, her tiny hands signing something shyly. "You're pretty." And for the first time that night, Ilara smiled, a small, trembling smile, but real. Caleb gestured gently toward the chair opposite her. "May I?" Ilara nodded. As he sat, Lila slid out of the booth, clutching her coloring book. Her hearing aids glittered beneath the cafe lights, twin mirrors of Ilara's own. Caleb signed and spoke at once. "I'm sorry you had to experience that. Some people show you who they are early. It's painful, but honest." Ilara's eyes softened. "Is she—" He smiled, nodding toward his daughter. "Yes, Lila's been losing her hearing since she was 3. We're learning this journey together." That word, journey, not struggle, not burden. Something in it rewired the silence inside her. Lila crept closer. "You're pretty," she signed again, more confidently this time. "That man was mean. Daddy says mean people are scared of what they don't understand." A laugh bubbled out of Ilara's chest, light, melodic, healing. "Thank you," she signed back. "I love your rainbow shirt. Is that a dinosaur?" Lila's eyes lit up. "It's a Brachiosaurus. Want to see how to sign dinosaur?" Her small hands began to move, the sign exaggerated and full of joy. Caleb watched them both, a woman and a child bridging worlds with their hands, and felt something stir in his chest, a quiet warmth he hadn't felt since before the accident that took his wife, Angela. They talked about hearing loss and courage, about how the world gets quieter, but sometimes kinder when sound fades. Ilara told them she was a pediatric nurse, how she worked with frightened children, showing them her hearing aids so they'd see someone like them. Caleb confessed how he'd learned sign language from YouTube tutorials, late at night, desperate not to lose connection with his daughter. Leela, curious and fearless, interrupted often. "Sometimes I turn off my hearing aids when it's too loud," she signed. "It's like a superpower. The world goes quiet, and Daddy and I talk with our hands, like magic." Ilara smiled, tears gathering at the edges of her vision. "That's not losing something," she said softly. "That's discovering a new way to listen." For a long moment, none of them spoke. The cafe lights reflected in the rain outside, soft and golden. 3 souls, once strangers, now bound by silence and understanding. When the evening ended, Caleb helped Lila with her jacket. He hesitated, then said, "We have pancakes every Saturday morning, Maple and Moon Cafe, 9 o'clock. You'd be welcome to join." Ilara smiled shyly. "I love pancakes." Lila signed, half asleep against her father's shoulder. "Please come. Daddy's jokes are bad, but he smiles when you laugh." Ilara's laughter followed them out into the rain, light and pure, like a bell ringing in the quiet night. The next day, the rain had cleared. The world smelled of maple and morning. Inside Maple and Moon, the air shimmered with warmth. At exactly 9 o'clock, Ilara stepped through the door. Jeans, blue sweater, hair tied back. Simpler now, more herself. Lila was the first to spot her. "You came," she signed, bouncing in her seat. "I promised, didn't I?" Ilara signed back, sliding into the booth. They talked for hours about childhood pets, favorite colors, the time Caleb accidentally set spaghetti on fire. Lila laughed so hard her hearing aid squealed with feedback, and even that sound felt beautiful. As they left, the morning sun broke through the clouds. 3 shadows stretched together on the wet pavement. Time moved softly after that. One breakfast became 2, then 4, then every week. Montage, Ilara teaching Lila how to sign names of butterflies. Caleb and Ilara building a fort from blankets in the living room. Lila falling asleep between them, hands curled in the sign for family. They made their own private vocabulary. Signs that meant Pancake Saturday, bad joke, and our person. Love grew, quietly, in the spaces between sentences. It happened one evening on a quiet street, headlights spilling gold across wet asphalt. Ilara asked him to pull over. "Caleb," she said softly, "stop the car." He did, concern flickering across his face. "Are you okay?" She leaned closer. The words came not from her lips, but her hands. "I love you." Caleb froze, then smiled, signing slowly, deliberately. "I love you too, not because you need someone to stand up for you, but because you already stand tall. You make our world whole again." And under the streetlight, their hands met. And love, wordless and complete, found its voice. Spring arrived early that year. At the edge of Lake Champlain, under soft pink blossoms, they married. Every vow was both spoken and signed, every laugh, every tear, understood in every language. Lila, now 7, stood as Flower Girl, her poem signed perfectly. Different doesn't mean broken. When Caleb made his vows, his voice trembled. "Ilara, you walked into our lives when we thought we were complete and showed us we weren't. You taught Lila that her differences are her superpowers. And you've shown me that love doesn't need sound to be heard." Ilara's hand shook as she signed her reply. "You saved me the night I thought I wasn't enough. You showed me that the right people don't see deafness as a flaw. They see it as part of the story worth hearing." The guests waved their hands. the silent applause of the deaf community as the music swelled and sunlight danced across the water. Months turned into years. Caleb started a support group for parents of deaf children. What began as 5 families in his living room grew to 50 in a rented hall, a new community bound not by hearing, but by heart. Ilara became the hospital's first deaf services coordinator, ensuring no child ever faced fear alone. Her gentle presence filled rooms that used to echo with misunderstanding, and Lila, bright, brave Lila, thrived. At 11, she stood before her class for a hero's presentation. Her voice was clear, her hands strong. "Some people think being deaf means something's missing," she said. "But in my family, it brought us together. My dad learned a new language for me. My mom, Ilara, taught me that our differences are beautiful, and because of them, we help others feel seen." The classroom was silent, not because they couldn't hear, but because they were listening. Every anniversary, they returned to Willow Cafe, the place where everything began. The owner, now their friend, always smiled when they walked in. "Table for 4?" she'd ask, nodding at the toddler in the high chair, baby Mason, already signing cookie. "No," Caleb would reply, grinning. "Table for family." On the wall above their booth hung a small wooden plaque, "Where love speaks louder than words." Outside, rain tapped softly on the glass, just like that first night. Later, on quiet evenings, when the children slept, Ilara and Caleb sat on the porch, hands intertwined, signing softly in the dark. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't stood up that night?" Ilara signed. Caleb thought for a moment. "Then we might never have met." "No," she replied with a smile. "We would have. Maybe not that night, maybe not that cafe. But love like this, it finds a way." The porch light flickered, catching their hands mid-gesture, glowing, alive, unbroken. Sometimes the worst nights lead to the most beautiful mornings. That night, in a small cafe on a rainy street, one man's cruelty opened the door for another man's kindness, a single act. The movement of hands in the quiet changed 3 lives, and countless more that followed. Because love doesn't always speak with words. It speaks through compassion, through courage, through the willingness to stand up for a stranger. And every time someone chooses kindness over indifference, every time someone signs or speaks or simply looks at another soul and says, "You deserve better," that's where love stories truly begin. The camera fades back to Willow Cafe, where the family sits laughing inside. Outside, the rain glows in halos of streetlight. On the glass, their reflections move, hands signing in silent harmony. The words appear, perfectly unique, inspired by true kindness,